David Jordan is the private advisor to CEOs, specialising in creating results through strategic innovation. Welcome to this week's segment.
So with the CEO Innovation Blueprint, one of the things to try and get organisations to put a lot more focus in is to listen to the customer. If we're focused on solving the customer's problems, then it's very important to start listening to the customer. And if we go and look at our sales team is very focused on selling the product. They'll walk into the office and explain why it's so important to buy our product. They've forgotten a very golden rule. Listen to what the customer needs. Listen to what the customer's problems are. A good salesman listens first and talks second. Your front-facing staff, whether they're on the telephones, whether they're answering text messages, whether they're doing SMS on the internet, or salesmen or support staff, are all your front-facing people, and it's very important to train them to listen and observe and understand the real problems of their customers, because they're your biggest feedback. The CEO Innovation Blueprint is identifying to CEOs a number of the challenges that they face in trying to drive innovation in their business. The CEOs are sitting there saying, we're spending a lot of time and money trying to get innovation and we're not getting results. We're not coming up with the ideas. When we do come up with the ideas and implement them, they're not delivering the results. And one of the problems that's in the organisation is the mix of personalities. A very good study that came out of the United States was to actually define two personalities in the organisations, and that was the explorer personality and the exploiter personality. And as you can imagine, an explorer personality is a person that steps outside the square. They're a person that's more prepared to take risk. They're the person that's more prepared to ask why. They're a person that's going to look for new ideas, new markets, new opportunities. The exploiter personality, and they're just as important in the organisation, this is not a negative, are very focused on exploiting what we already have. So they're saying we've got product A, and we work out how to be as efficient as possible in manufacturing it. We try to get it out the door as quick as possible. We reduce the cost of making it. We maximize the amount of money that we get from the customer. We focus on maximizing the margin, but it's still product A. Now, the hard part is that probably over the last 20 years, the business model has favored the exploiter. We've had 15 years of solid, strong growth before the global financial crisis. We weren't interested in product B, we just were going to make the most out of product A. So when we looked to promote somebody, the exploiter personality was promoted. When we looked to hire people, the exploiter personality was hired because it fitted the business model. That annoying person that kept, instead of doing the job, kept asking why we're doing the job, were discouraged and pushed out. So we find that when you look at a company today, it's dominated by exploiter personalities and doesn't have the explorer personalities. The difficulty is the global financial crisis has caused a right angle turn, which means that we need to think differently about how we deal with the customer. We need to come up with new ideas. We need to protect against digital disruptors. So we need people that think outside the square, who are prepared to take risk, who are prepared to challenge the status quo. And we need explorer personalities, and we don't have them in the organisation. So it's very important to start thinking about how can we improve that mix. Do we employ more people that are explorer personalities? Or do we look at what organisations like Apple, who, whilst it's an innovation company, is really full of exploiters? When you look at Siri is not an innovation of Apple. Siri was a product of a company that Apple bought. So they are importing skills by buying other companies. Or do you look at consulting companies and external people that you can bring into the organisation on a part-time basis to help to challenge the organisation? But if you want to drive innovation, you really need to start looking at the personality mix of your organisation. The hard part, can I change an exploiter? And you can to some extent, but it's very much the way they're driven and the way they think about the problem. An explorer is somebody that will really challenge the status quo, really think outside the square. And actually sometimes it's really important to bring somebody fresh into the view who's not locked into the way that we've done things in the past, to actually challenge that status quo, because they have no vested interest. They weren't involved in introducing this product, they weren't involved in the computer systems that went in, they weren't involved in the planning or the pricing or any other marketing that was behind it. They are not encumbered with anything of the past, so sometimes they're the best people to come in and look at it. Some organisations are actually introducing a crowdsourcing idea for ideas, where I might be a mining company, but I'm actually asking somebody that might be involved in retail to come up with ideas and how I could do things with difference. So we look at it as cross-industry skills. It's something that I learned from the way I did business, is that I've been involved in the mining industry, in the shipping industry, in book retail and manufacturing and finance. And it's amazing that there is some clever idea that might occur in mining that actually is a great solution to a problem in a book retailer, even though it sounds strange. We were actually looking at maintenance systems for an organisation, and the maintenance systems for shipping companies are the same as a maintenance system for a coal mining. We were talking with two types of organisations, structures, where they were remote from suppliers, that they had issues of safety, and a number of things that were exactly the same, even though they were completely different industries. So one of the important things is it might not be that you can change just the internal stuff of your organisation. You might actually need to look at how you can bring in fresh ideas, fresh talent, and fresh personalities. So I'm a CEO and I'm trying to drive change in the organisations, and one of the biggest challenges we find with CEOs is that they're relying on experts beneath them. As we all know, a good CEO employs good people. The problem is they're also relying or dependent on them for the skills that they bring to the table. So I'm sitting there with the responsibility to the board to drive growth and drive profit and bring innovations to the table, and we have a great idea, and the expert that I've employed comes up and says, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Now, that's all very great. What do you do? How do you overrule the expert that you've employed into the organisation, that might be a legal expert or a finance expert or a marketing expert? They're the ones that are supposed to have the expertise, and they've just thrown a landmine in front of the innovation idea. So how do you deal with them? Do you take the risk of overruling the expert and being found that you were wrong? So you have to learn the mind games of how to bring the expert along on the journey. And one of the challenges that we try and explain with experts is that experts are experts in the status quo. Their whole expertise was built on the way that things were done in the past. So it's part of challenging the executive is to challenge them to think outside the status quo. And when they come up and say, we don't think this is a good idea, to challenge to say, do you think that's not a good idea because that's outside of your normal expertise? Or is there really a valid reason behind it? So there are a number of challenges and ways of doing it, but it's really important not to allow experts to derail projects.
To get your copy of David Jordan's book, The CEO Innovation Blueprint, go to his website, theceoblueprint.com.au.